As women who are 50 plus, 60 plus, we've gone through menopause, or maybe we're transitioning through menopause, we often experience problems with weight gain. And even if we don't gain weight, the weight that we have tends to redistribute in places that we don't want it to, like the belly. So most of us as women have struggled with this body fat weight gain issue. It just gets a little harder once we go through menopause. Today I have with me an expert, and we are going to dive deep into how women can obtain sustainable weight loss, weight maintenance, without feeling hungry, suffering, feeling deprived, all of the things. Today, I have with me Ginny Trierweiler. Am I saying your name
Trierweiler is pretty
correct?
good. Yeah, thank
Trierweiler.
you.
I'm sorry. I hesitated there. You know, I'm so funny with names. I always like have my own pronunciations when I
It
see
works.
vowels. Ginny is the author of the forthcoming book, Slender for Good After 50. Eat more, stress less, and never diet again. She is a psychologist and certified health coach who discovered evidence based solutions for her own eating and weight loss issues. Now she loves to help other women to learn how to be truly healthy and how truly healthy eating works, how they can actually crave the good foods, not the ones that cause us issues. Every day she is helping women, wise women, make healthy eating habits easy and escape stress and worries about eating and weight. Ginny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you, and I love what you're doing too. I dove into your YouTube channel
Yeah,
yesterday, and you have some great content on there.
thank
So,
you.
for the listeners or anyone watching, highly suggest that you check out her YouTube because there's she dives deep into all the different subjects concerning weight loss. Now, I want to get into your personal story because you struggled for many
Yeah.
years. Like, what was the turning point? How did you go from struggling to not struggling?
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I'm someone who was slender in my teens and 20s and 30s and just thought, I got it all figured out. People should have donuts and coffee for breakfast. And like what I'm doing totally works until my fees. And I kind of abruptly went into menopause. And then I started gaining weight, and everything I thought worked stopped working. Right. So eat less, exercise more. And I just felt my body was so betraying me. It makes me want to cry every time I think about how painful those years were. And that definition of insanity, do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. I was in that place. I felt like, am I crazy? Why isn't this working? And it went on for over 10 years. And like I didn't want to date. It just really was affecting my life. Women who are overweight can expect to get paid significantly less, even. I was a CEO and I felt like that was affecting me. So I had this wake up call moment when I left the CEO position and started building my own business. And I worked in nursing homes for a while. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna help these ladies and these men with this transition period in life. They're going to be in their 80s and 90s. So many of them were not very much older than I was. They were in their 60s. A lot of people are in their 60s and 70s. And they were all asking me, how do I get out of here? Get me out of here. Can you help me? Like my kids have taken my house and my car, and I need to get back to my stuff and my dog. And so I started researching, how do I help them get out of here? And not by the time you're at that level of 24/7 nursing care, you're never getting out of there again. So that was heartbreaking. And I started looking at, well, what is causing these diseases that are keeping them with this level of care, like diabetes and heart disease and dementia and cancer. And it came down to diet more than anything else. It came down to what people are eating, how people are eating in these times. And so I just realized, I picture myself hiking in the mountains in my 80s. I'm one of these youthful, active people. But in my mid 50s, I could barely go for a walk anymore because I had so much inflammation in my feet. Like I had so much pain and inflammation. So that I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't thinking well, and I had 60 excess pounds. And it was like, you're not on a good track, Ginny. You're headed for the nursing home in the next 10 years. And it
Wow.
was just terrifying. And so I thought, well, I don't know what to do. When I go to the marketplace, I get this confusing information. I get this conflicting information. I get this eat less, exercise more idea, which has not been working for the last 10 years. So what am I supposed to do? So I thought, well, you're a trained researcher, you know how to study evidence-based practices. go try to find the answers. And as long as you're not in a nursing home yet, just fight for it. Just make it important until you figure it out. And I found, because of that kind of orientation, I found 4 fundamental principles to guide me, and I started following them. They came along with pretty specific quantities of like fruits and vegetables and proteins, which was super helpful. I hadn't realized how much specificity would be really helpful. And so at first I was kind of like crying, like, this is terrible. I'm going to hate this. I have to give up my, really indulgent wine and chocolate and things every night, maybe. And so as I started making these changes, though, I quit crying. I started realizing, actually, I really enjoy this. This is working really well. I'm starting to get my mental clarity back. My sleep started healing. The pain and inflammation I had lived with, it got worse for over 40 years, went away. Like, I was like, okay, this is magic, just eating according to healthy eating principles. I thought I was eating healthy. And so I always am so aware when I talk to people, everybody thinks they're eating healthy. We're just very mistaken because we've lived in this, what I call deranged food environment for so long. We have a mistaken idea about what healthy eating is. It isn't hard, but you have to get these principles really clear. So it just transformed everything in my life. And again, that makes me want to cry. It just put me in this position of, I kind of hate the weight loss field. It feels very scammy, and I didn't want to be part of it. But I felt like I got to help other women know how this works, and they don't have to do the scammy things that are just going to backfire on them. So I'm all emotional, Carol.
With good reason. How much did you lose,
It was
Ginny?
60 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And I imagine that took a mindset shift too.
There's so much mindset shift. Yes.
How important do you think that is
I
for
think it's
women
so
with weight
important.
loss?
So one of the reasons I had to get into this field is because people don't know what to eat. They're super confused and they're trying 1,000 tips every day. I knew I could help clear that up for people. But also, there's not enough attention to, how does your mindset have to shift? So I'm thinking about a client I'm working with right now. She's thrilled with the weight loss that she's had. She is feeling great. She is looking great. But part of her mindset is still, I can't wait to now have some of the things that I've been staying away from. And as long as those things that are non-nutritious, like the processed non-nutritious things, feel like treats, like I can't wait to have that, you're in this trap where you're just resisting with willpower. And that's not going to hold up, right? That's why most people are going, that's part of why most people are going to gain the weight back, because they're making temporary changes and their mindset is, I can't wait to go back to my old ways.
You said two things there that I relate to. The willpower. I've been on that lately because yeah, we do have to call on it once in a while, but it can't be the one and only thing that we rely on
Exactly.
because it runs out. I mean,
Yes.
you think about I remember when I was giving up wine, so I went
Yes.
alcohol free a few months ago, and initially it was hard. I'd get through the day and I'd be like, yes, no wine, and then
Even
you get
one.
to that, yeah, you get to that 5 o'clock, and it's like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I deserve something nice,
Yeah.
and it's hard. That willpower is gone,
Right.
so you got to dig deeper, and I
Yeah.
really love that you hit on that.
You have to love yourself enough to take a little time to dig deeper. That I deserve this phrase is something that I found super helpful. Like, but I deserve it. I wasn't going to have it, but I deserve it. Okay, in 10 minutes, you can have it, Ginny. We're not going to say you can't have it, but you need to spend the next 10 minutes figuring out what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Like, put a pause in here. Like, you need to be the one in charge. You need to be the one choosing. And so in that pause, I started saying, wait a minute, do I only say I deserve this about things that are bad for me? No, I don't want to do that. That feels painful. That doesn't feel wise, right? I started wanting to tap into a deeper wisdom within me. I know the wiser part of me doesn't think having a bottle of wine every night's a great idea, but the other part of me thinks it's awesome, right?
Especially in a culture that really
Really so
supports
normalizes.
that, really, especially since 2020, I have found.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, all the memes and everything is really driving women in
yeah.
that direction. Something that I don't know if you're familiar with Annie Grace and This Naked
I'm one of
Mind.
her certified coaches.
You are?
Yes, I'm one
Okay.
of her first
So
certified coaches.
Well, I am in her course right now. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
small world. But I love what she says. She said, "Oh, I can have a drink anytime. I just choose not to drink."
Yeah, I
And
just
that's
don't want
such,
to. Yeah,
yeah, such a mind when you were talking about that,
yeah,
I deserve it, and just kind of reframing that a little bit and saying, "Yeah, I can have that. I'm not going to deny myself,
right,
but I don't want it. I choose
right,
not to do it right
right,
now."
right. Yeah, I think alcohol and for a lot of us, sweet things,
Sweet things,
like it's
yes.
just they feel very important. And part of what's going on is called the salience effect in the brain. Anything that gives us a big hit of dopamine, like that was good. People tell you, oh, you got to have this. This is good. See dopamine, see an excess dopamine response because yes, it feels like pleasure, but it also drives this salience effect. So your brain starts searching for anywhere you can find that. You know what? Figure out where you got that because it seems really important. So it starts to take on, I mean, when you think about, I'm just going to take a bottle of wine to my friend who's not feeling well, it sounds so benign. But if it becomes something you're using all the time, and it feels way more important than you want it to, you might want to break up with that thing for a while and make it less important. Like, how does Annie Grace talk about the less important part?
Oh, you got me there.
What does she say? It's become small and irrelevant.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. She says that a lot. Alcohol is now small, and that's what was her goal
Yes,
when she quit drinking. She said, "I wanted it to be irrelevant."
right.
And that is a good feeling because that's
It's
where
a
I'm
good
at right now.
feeling.
It's like,
Yes.
"Eh,
I
I
don't
don't care. I don't
care.
care. People can have a glass of wine around me, doesn't
Yes.
bother me
Yes.
because it's not relevant for me
Isn't
anymore."
that so good? It's such a gift. It's a freedom, right? Yeah.
Yes,
What
yes,
I see through the screen with people who are changing their eating and drinking, because I see them as part of the same thing. We're gonna
I do too.
eating and drinking are ingesting things, and some of them are good for us, and some are not good for us. And when we cut out things that aren't good for us in favor of having a lot of things that are good for us, I start to see this aliveness in people's faces through the screen. It's a kind of energy you can't get when you have too many of the processed things, including alcohol, in the way.
And the power of that, because I think it's empowering to feel like I can take it or leave it. Because I know
Yeah,
I had my struggle with sugar back
yeah,
in the day. It was
yeah.
really bad. I remember once I used to do, you probably see my little trophies behind me. I did bikini bodybuilding shows.
Wow.
And for my first one, I'm like, okay, gotta eat clean. And I
Yeah.
white knuckled the sugar.
Yes.
As soon as I finished the show, I was in the garage with a little, it was like a container of homemade, like Nutter butters, almost like a Reese's
Yes.
that a friend had brought me. And I'm like, I'm only going to have one and save the rest for my
Yeah.
family. Stood in the hot garage and ate every single Nutter
Yes.
butter in the
Yes.
container and felt so terrible about
Horrible.
myself.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with me?
Yes. Well, I really do believe that there's good research that we get an addiction response. We get that salience effect. Our brain starts searching for that. It says, don't stop. This feels really, really. Whenever you can get this in the universe, get it and eat as much of it as you can. I mean, that's a survival response. Like 10,000 years ago, if people came across a whole bunch of fermenting fruits, like get as much of that as you can was okay, right?
Hmm.
Now it's more than half of what's in our food environment. So get as much as you can coming from our biology and from our brain has us in terrible trouble.
It does, because you think about just driving. I know I live in Albuquerque. We have a lot of fast food
I
chains.
bet.
So you're driving through, and even with the windows rolled up, the smell when you go past there, and I'm like, wow, what a strong signal that is for a human
It
being
really is.
to
Like you
to
might not
just
even register it and be aware of it, and suddenly you're hungry. Like it's starting you salivating, it's starting your
right.
gut getting ready, right? Yeah, we live in a very tricky environment. That's why I think it really helps. This idea of having four fundamental principles. This is how I eat. This is just how I eat. It's focused on eating abundant, nutritious foods and only nutritious foods, pretty much, right? I love that.
Right.
So, Slender for Good clients tell me all the time just having really simple principles that work all the time and I'm never hungry it's life-changing, and I'm never letting go of this. It's such a gift to have found this in these times, right?
Now, how important, we talked about mindset,
Yeah.
but I think about negative things like problems that my clients have faced. One of them is, "Oh, I don't like to cook. I don't want to meal prep. I don't have time." And they're pulling out all the negatives. And I think that's another brain thing because
Yes.
there was a point where pulling out the negatives in our environment would help us survive, right? Because we
Totally.
had to be able to look and say, all right, that's not a good situation. So we're almost programmed to to find the
We
negatives.
absolutely are. Yeah. We are
How do
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
how do we switch that? How do we switch that negative thought process over to a more positive one?
Yeah, I like the idea of being really intentional about bringing really positive emotions into our healthy eating habits. So how can it, like for me, I said the same thing to, I got a coach for a while when I was changing my eating. I'm realizing I need to eat a lot more vegetables, and I like vegetables, but not that much vegetables. Like, we're just not used to it. I've been saving room for the sweet things and the salty, crunchy things. And how am I supposed to eat this many and enjoy it? And I don't have any time. You can't ask me to take any time doing this. She's like, I mean, maybe we need to do a time study to look at where all your time is going, that you can't prioritize your health in this way. And
Ooh, I love that.
that's what coaches are for, right? Call us on our shit a little bit. But when I heard you say those examples, here's what I heard. The primitive brain is saying, I just want you to we're just sticking with our habits. Like, we're not changing our habits. That's a terrible idea. We could almost die if we change our habits. We have been
Mhm.
surviving on these habits. And then the rational brain can't help but come up with rationales. Oh, here's a good excuse why now's not the time, why we shouldn't go that far, and why we should stick with our old habits, and it's not, it's going to be too hard, and we can't make time for it. Like, there's a part of our brain that we can find in the brain that has that tendency to come up with an excuse for whatever we want to do, or make up a rationale for what we see somebody else doing. Like, it can't help but make up a story. It's not a true explanation, it's just a story. So here's what I came up with for the primitive brain. I know you think that things are going to be terrible if we change our habits, but we're just eating healthy. Nothing terrible is happening. We're okay. Nothing terrible is happening. So think of her. I'm hugging myself for the people who are listening. So think of her as a child. Like, she just wants what tastes good, right? I just want what I'm used to having. And if we eat according to her drive every time, we're going to be overweight. We're going to be sick. We're not going to have healthy lives in these times, right? We're just not in a good, healthy environment. So we have to reassure her, slow down. It's okay. Nothing terrible's happening. We're just eating healthy. We might love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I do the kind of hug, talk to myself thing,
Yeah.
not about food, but like many women, when I lay down to go to sleep, my mind
Yeah.
goes
Start
down
going.
rabbit holes,
Yeah.
and they're often not pleasant rabbit holes. It's
Right.
like doomsday.
Right. We're all going to
I'm like,
die.
why is this happening at night? And I will literally say to myself, almost whisper, "You're safe,
Yeah.
Carol.
That's good.
That you're safe. It's
Yes.
fine. You're
Yes.
good." And it's powerful. It
Yes.
works.
Yeah. I
So
love
I
it.
do
Yeah.
love that.
So caring for our psychology in this process is pretty important. Yeah.
Very, very. And I think being kind to ourselves. Now, sometimes that gets thrown around a little bit too much, and being kind gets, I think, almost can turn into feeling like the victim, or
Mhm.
reinforcing that victimhood. But I think there's a line where you give yourself the grace you need while holding yourself accountable.
Yes. Yeah, the way I talk about that is there's sort of two extremes. When, let's say, I eat something that I don't usually eat, I do that thing of eating all the Reese's cups and then go, that was awful. I can't believe I did that. I wasn't going to do that. Okay, I don't want to go to the extreme of beating myself up. It's not going to help. It's actually going to make things worse. And I don't want to go to the extreme of saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. It matters what we put in our body. Let's quit telling ourselves it doesn't. I'm just going to have a little of this. What I noticed the last time I checked, a little of this, I know this isn't too good for me. I'm just going to have a little. I had 14 of those in the course of a week. It's not a little. We're kind of lying to ourselves. So kind of stay in a more balanced position in between, where what I talk about is being faithful to these principles that work for the human body. I want to be faithful to eating this way. It's not about being perfect, but I'm not going to say it doesn't matter either. I've been able to see, I've been doing this for 8 years or something. It matters. If I start reintroducing desserts, or if I try to reintroduce alcohol, it matters to my body, to my mind, to my habits. I'm not going to beat myself up.
And I think knowing ourselves, because for me, I know I'm not a very good moderator.
Yeah,
So if I start letting sweets back in, I would have that sugar habit. It doesn't mean that I never have something sweet.
yeah,
I do,
yeah,
but it's very like we're out at a restaurant. It's never coming home with us. We're
yeah,
sharing some small dessert. It's not very often. It's maybe like anniversary or whatever. And I tell myself, you can have that once again anytime you want. I'm
right,
just choosing not to have it today.
right.
But if I were to suddenly decide, okay, I'm going to moderate cookies and
Yep,
have cookies every day,
right.
that would not last very
No,
long.
yeah, you'd start getting more cravings. You'd start desiring more of that. Your gut microbiome would change. Your brain would change, right? Your taste buds change. Like regular good food doesn't taste good anymore when we're putting that kind of intensity of flavor on our tongue.
Now, switching gears a bit, because you did an excellent video on hunger. I
Oh,
thought it
thank
was
you.
great. I think it was a recent one. You
It
were
was.
talking about the hunger hormones.
Yeah.
And I know just from my personal research that women, when they go through menopause, there is a disruption. Well, there's
Mhm.
a disruption in blood sugar, blood
Yes.
glucose. We're not as good at regulating it. And then also with the hunger hormones, we can become hungrier and then at the same time less satiated with
Yeah.
what we eat. What
Right.
can we do about that? How do we fix that?
Yeah, I mean, what I have found is so within a couple of weeks, people eating the way that I teach, I call it simply wise eating, they start telling me, I'm losing weight and I'm not hungry. This happens pretty fast, not having that excess hunger. And it's because we're eating this abundance of nutritious foods that have a lot of fiber, etc. It's because it's changing our gut and it's changing our hormones. So it happens pretty fast actually with the eating enough of the right things. And staying away for a while, staying away from the things that trigger us to want more. There is this third piece in there that can be pretty important, which is don't eat too often. Because if you eat too often, you're spiking your blood sugar too often. It never
Yes.
gets a chance to come down. Same thing is happening to our insulin. And this is part of what can set us up for prediabetes. Eating too often, eating too many of the wrong things, and eating not enough of the right things.
I just recently had a friend and she actually has no weight to lose. Like if you look at her, she's slender in her
Uh-huh.
60s, but just recently diagnosed with diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And I'm like,
Yes.
wow. And she doesn't look
Yeah.
what you would consider to be diabetic.
Right.
It's
It's
interesting
gotten
to
so
see.
common. I had prediabetes before I changed my eating, and it was one of the things that made me really scared. Uh-oh. This ends up with diabetes almost every case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're going to have to
And
change
then
your eating in a bigger way than you think to turn that around. The thing is, it can be very enjoyable and not difficult.
it can be, and we're kind of back to the mindset and how we approach it. And you made a point very early on about people thinking, I call it, they think they've arrived.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
okay, when I arrive, then I can go back and have that glass of wine or back and have
Yeah.
that chocolate cake. And that was a shock for me
Yes.
when I had my own transformation. I'm like, oh, you mean I have to keep doing this?
Yes. I know. It's not what they told me. That wasn't in the brochure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking with this client about this yesterday. There's these stages in a habit change process, right? And so people think the action stage, okay, I'm eating less, I'm losing weight, I'm doing my practices to not drink every day, but then I'm going to get to my 30 days or my 90 days or my goal weight, and then I will be able to do these things I've been avoiding for a while. And so we get to the where you should be going into maintenance, which could last the rest of your life. It's a long, long stage, and people throw it out the window. They don't understand it's a very important stage to take care of, right?
Yes, yes. Now, what do you do? And I'm sure it's happened where you have a client and they want to try something. Let's say they're like, I'm tired of tracking because I always have women track in the
Yeah, right,
beginning so
right.
that they can see,
Yes.
not so that they get obsessive, but it's like you got to know, it's like Google
Is
Maps.
this
Okay, you got
working?
to know,
Yes, right,
yeah, is this working?
right,
Where are we going? We
right.
need a map. And a lot of times they'll come at some point and say, well, I've been reading about this intuitive eating or moderation. I want to try that. How do you handle that situation? Do you steer them away? Do you let them try? And it's, as Annie Grace says, a data point?
Yeah. Well, so two different things is what happens when you have a slip or you decide I want to start trying to reincorporate something. And the other is intuitive eating, right? I want to just start kind of going with what I feel like again. I'm very anti-intuitive eating for most people. If you care about weight loss, there are people with eating disorders, maybe that's what they have to do. Like they just have to calm down and not pay too much attention to this. But people who want to eat healthy and lose weight, intuitive eating is not going to help them. Your gut thinks the best things are the most calorie dense things, right? Your brain thinks the things that gave the biggest dopamine hit are the things that have been keeping you alive. And if you've been giving your tongue, your taste buds, sugar, they're going to think that's the best thing. So, kind of tuning into what does my body want? It wants sweet things that are high calorie, that are calorie dense. It doesn't know what tastes like nutrition. It knows what tastes pleasing. So, we have to be wiser than to go with what our body thinks is the best idea. We have to, in this time, like 10,000 years ago, people didn't have to think about this. But we are surrounded with so much non nutritious, highly pleasing stuff, right? That we need to be wiser than that. Like our nutritional wisdom is still in there, covered up with a whole bunch of conditioning to derangement. Does that make
You know,
sense?
it makes sense. It does. Because I was thinking as you were talking about how, like a bear before it goes in hibernation, it's
Exactly.
going to go eat all the fructose, all the
Yes.
sweet, and
Yes.
just
Because it
load
wants to
up
put
on
on
that.
fat. Yes.
Yeah, so it goes away, it sleeps for the winter, hibernates, and that is a survival thing.
Yes.
And I'm sure there was a time for us where eating large quantities was in our favor, and it's no
When
longer.
we
It's
could
almost like
get
we
food.
have outdated machinery or something.
Yeah, I mean, the machinery still has a purpose. If we can't get nutrition, we should be storing excess fat. The thing is, there's plenty of nutritious food in our environment. It's just not most of what's there. And we have to be smarter about our choices, or we're going to store fat for the same reason the bear does. Not getting enough nutrition. I better store fat for the future. Makes me
I
mad.
know.
Yeah.
It does me too. Does me too. Now, what about the notion, and I've heard this a lot. I don't know if you listened to Cynthia Thurlow and followed, she's great, followed her for years, did her intermittent fasting training program, and she was talking about how people will get overweight,
Mm-hmm.
but they're undernourished.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's
Yes.
really a concept there.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of us believe that is the population now. That is most of the population. We're overfed and undernourished. Yeah, it's
And that is
frustrating.
because they're taking in this high calorie food that maybe it's low fiber, low nutrient,
Yep,
highly processed.
right.
Correct?
And it
Yes.
tastes the best in a lot of ways. It tastes like the best stuff. So our primitive brain goes, get that, always get that. Right. And so, yeah, we have to, like I say, pull out a higher wisdom. So when you had asked, when people ask about, I want to start reincorporating cookies or whatever, yeah, I encourage them to do that very slowly, very intentionally, and with a lot of observation. So how does it affect my body? Because we fool ourselves. The research shows that we fool ourselves about how much of the things, the not nutritious things we're eating. So we want to really track things at that point. We want to really pay attention to what's going on. We want to watch it if it affects our weight. If it starts driving me to gain weight and go into fat storage mode again, that's not something you just go back and forth over. Okay, well, I'll lose the weight, I'll gain the weight, I'll lose the weight. That is not a benign situation for us. That's detrimental to our metabolic functions, right? We don't want to do that. We want to either be going in the direction of weight loss and weight maintenance, or we're going in the direction of putting weight on. So if it affects your weight, it matters. Notice it. Does it escalate? So if I have a little of that, do I start getting ideas about, oh, I think I'm going to have a little of this now, and I think I'm going to have a little of that now? Do we start to want more of it? So escalation can happen associated with food or with thoughts. Like I'm just starting to give myself more and more permissions. Oh, I think I can do this now, and I think I can do that now. And the other part is peace. Does it affect your peace around eating? So, one of the biggest surprises to my clients and me is how calm we feel eating this way. Like we're getting this very pleasurable experience with eating. It's a calm kind of pleasure. It's surprising how much our mood changes and how much sense of calm we have. So, does it affect my peace if I start incorporating this thing? Like, ooh, I want more cookies.
Oh, yeah, the angsty kind of
Angsty.
anxious, never, and it's never enough.
Never enough.
That's what I found when I ate sugar.
Yeah,
It
me
was
too.
never enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just go and go and go.
And people are different in that kind of reaction. Like we can, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, some people could be quite low. A lot of us are in the 5 or above kind of range with that. So you can figure out for yourself, but watch out for fooling yourself because you want to believe the tastiest, the things that you were given every time you celebrated. You want to believe those are okay for you. And the food pet manufacturers are going to say, this is okay for you because it's got antioxidants or whatever, right?
Yes, yes, added fiber,
Yeah.
or the one I love is vegan or plant-based, and
Yes.
it's just full of absolute junk.
It is full of junk, yeah. And a lot of times the vegan and vegetarian people are the hardest for me to work with because they're so attached to the junk things because they're saying no to the meat things, right?
Right, right. My brother, I always pick on him, but he actually completely changed. He went from being vegan, and I'm not saying people should do this. It's just an example,
Right.
from plant-based to now eating animal
Hmm.
protein. But I remember when he was entirely plant-based, he was eating very few plants. It was like
Yes.
everything was
It was all
packaged.
processed stuff. Yeah, that's what frustrates me about that. Yeah.
Now, how do you feel there's such a debate on social media? You may have noticed this. I've really noticed it. You've got the calorie people. They're really like, boy, this is how you lose weight. You have got to dial in the deficit. And I'm not arguing with that. And then you have the people saying it's hormones. Where do you think the truth lies between the two?
Well, I have a pretty strong bias that it's hormones at this point and it's not calories, especially for women. Um, yeah, we have to manage what's going on with our hormones. Example I like to use is the idea that a 100-calorie snack pack of cookies would be equal to 100 calories of berries. Like the calories are what counts. Extremely problematic and just to the point of being untrue. It's not helping us. When you look at the research on diets, almost none of them hold up for weight loss if you look 2 or 3 years down the road. Almost nobody who's done calorie cutting diets or keto diets either have kept the weight off at 2 or 3 years down the road. They've gained it back. So the whole focus on I just have to eat less or put my body into ketogenesis, it's like trying to force our body to let go instead of understanding the problem is our body's not getting the nutrition it needs and it's getting harm from the processed foods. So we can correct that pretty simply, right? We can eat abundant, nutritious foods. But it has to be real nutritious foods, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, and of course some proteins and fats and whole grains too. A lot of people would benefit from having some whole grains.
Yes, there's been that movement away from it. And I think, okay, if somebody is really trying to heal candida, they're having
Mm,
bloating issues, temporarily, and I tell women this,
yeah.
temporarily doing an elimination diet
Yes.
might help and then gradually reintroduce, but don't stay in that mode.
Right.
Women want to stay in that mode, but the grains have so much fiber, and that's my
Yes.
my big thing with
Yeah, people
grains.
really need more fiber. Yeah, and we really need leptin and ghrelin and insulin functioning well. So fat is driven by insulin, and this is affected by blood sugar and leptin and ghrelin, and whether you feel hungry all the time or you feel satisfied. Most of us can find we can fix it just by eating the right foods, a lot of the right foods.
Yes. Now, how important do you think movement is in this,
Mm.
combining these principles? And I'm not even talking formal exercise here. I'm just
Mhm.
talking people getting up and moving because we don't move a lot now.
It's important, yeah. I don't talk about it a lot in my program because what I want people to know is exercise is not the key to weight loss.
True.
It's very complicated how our body handles exercise as far as our body weight and fat and those kinds of things. And it's not the answer that the counters are going to suggest it is. Like all you got to do is get this many steps or this many minutes on the machine and you'll burn this many calories. It's not right. It's not true. It's not helping people. But people need to move and we need to find ways to keep movement happening as we get older. Otherwise, it gets harder and harder, right? So our muscles stop working as well. Our bones start losing density. So it's really important for us to find ways to do it. I turn to people like you for help on what kind of movement should we be doing that won't, unduly injure us,
Right.
right?
Right. And we were talking a bit about that off camera. So important because you do want that stimulus for the muscle.
Yes.
You want the muscle because it's a sink for glucose. So it gives
Yeah.
somewhere for
Right.
that blood sugar to go. We want the bone density. More muscle means a higher metabolism.
Yeah.
So I always say prioritize prioritize the strength training over the cardio
Yeah.
is my
Okay.
advice.
Yeah.
And then there are ways to safely, we talked about, joint health and how that can be an issue for all of us.
Yeah.
I've had two orthopedic surgeries in 1 year. So I'm an example of
Yeah.
what
Hard.
should not
Yeah.
happen
Right.
from my years of bodybuilding. I mean,
Yeah.
from really lifting heavy, heavy, heavy. And I
No.
backed off from that.
Yeah.
And it's a more moderate approach. Yes, you do need strength training. Yes, you need to challenge those muscles, but do so safely for sure.
Yeah. Almost, it's a good idea to have a coach going through this, right? So you don't set yourself up for injury and then 6 months of recovery when everything, like you're getting muscle wasting, etc.
Yes, because the idea is to be able to do this the rest of our lives. And
Right.
I think as women, and I'm very guilty of this, we want to do all of the things all of the
Yeah.
time.
To
And we
the nth
overdo
degree.
things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the cardio bunny, I
Yeah.
remember back in my days, it was okay, I'm going to go run
Right.
and then I'm going to go to a spin class and
Right.
then 3 nights a week.
Yes.
Yeah, I really beat myself
You
up in my
enjoyed it, I
20s.
guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of these people that got the runner's high, and
Right.
I do get an endorphin kind of rush from exercise, but it's my understanding some people don't get that same feeling. So
Yeah,
it's
it could
interesting.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm
definitely.
so my big emphasis is how do you get a bit of an endorphin high from eating nutritious foods? And it actually is very doable, but it might take intention because everyone's handing you candy and wine and going with that, drug addicted
Right.
reaction, right? So we don't want that huge a drug addicted reaction, but we do want to get some hit of dopamine and pleasure from eating nutritious foods. We can't be eating, for me, like I think of rice cakes. Yucky. Does everything have to taste like that to be healthy? No. Needs to taste.
Put peanut butter on mine. So
That would make it good.
I do not eat a plain rice cake. It's got to have some nut butter on
Right.
there.
Otherwise, it's cardboard. Right. It's
So
not
you talk,
hard to make
I'm
them
sorry, go
taste
ahead.
good. It's just not hard to make the good things taste good. It takes a little bit of intention up front. Okay, how am I going to eat? I don't like broccoli all of a sudden. What am I going to eat now? I remember once going to making myself go to the produce stand, just touch everything because there's so many things. And I end up thinking, no, if I'm not liking broccoli, what the heck am I going to do? There's 10,000 other things, there's hundreds of things.
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot. I've had clients tell me, but I don't like broccoli. I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Don't eat
there's a
broccoli then.
law. Yeah, don't eat it. I don't care. Find something
There's
else to
plenty
eat,
of
Brussels
options.
sprouts
Anyway,
or something.
yeah.
So if somebody comes to you, a woman comes to you, she has quite a bit of weight to lose, she's just getting started. What principles are you giving her? Is it one thing at a time? Is it a step-by-step
Oh, I love
process?
that question. Yeah, because there's a psychology to this. So I do teach them what to eat more of first before we talk about here's some things to cut out for a while. So we focus first on eat abundant nutritious foods and I'm going to tell you what I mean very specifically and how much because almost nobody figures out how much it needs to be. It's a lot. And then I tell them, okay, now we're going to move to eating meals and not snacks, which I was panicked about. Like all these principles seemed wrong to me until I read like 30 studies that kept saying the same things. Right. And so now we're going to focus on that for a while. And then the next thing is we're going to focus on the things that we're going to cut out for a while because they're overstimulating things we don't want to overstimulate. We want to heal things. So that's the third one. And my clients will often tell me, but just give me the whole thing. Just, give me the whole thing. And I kind of don't teach it that way. Although in my book, people will be able to get the whole thing. But I want them to read the book before I'll send them the plan, because what people have learned to do is I like this, I don't like that. And they don't end up following any kind of principles with any kind of coherence, and they don't get any results. But that's sort of the way the marketplace encourages them to go. Just use a little of this, a little of that, whatever you like. Great if you want to keep the results you're getting. But if you want life-changing results, you're going to need to follow a plan that works with a lot of fidelity. Like, I just want to be faithful to this one approach. So it gets simple. It gets easy.
Do you have them log or do you have them write in a diary, or how do they keep track of their food?
I encourage most people. So I feel like there's so many tools people can use that can be supportive of their plan. So I will introduce some of those and tell people, most of the people I've seen succeed use this tool of writing down their food, making sure, especially for dinner, like, okay, but I know exactly what my breakfast is. I know exactly what my lunch is. I have trouble with dinner. Well, write it down ahead of time. Because in that moment, you're going to feel like, oh, what's easy and quick to grab right now? Or what's somebody putting in front of me? And you don't have a lot of willpower by that time of day, right?
That's right.
So
We're tired.
right. Writing down your food is a good tool. I will tell people lots of times, I did that for the first 2 years. I would write down what I was going to eat. And then at the end of the day, I would write down what I ate, because we know we fool ourselves. So I'm trying to escape the fooling myself habit.
Yes. I know there is a study, I think it's an older study that was pretty large. I wish I had the info in front of me, but they looked at two different groups. So one group was just regular people keeping track of their food, and they found that they underestimated how much they ate
Right.
and overestimated how much they moved.
Yes.
And then they did the same with registered dietitians, and they did it as well.
Yes.
So that tells me
Yes.
this is human
This is
nature.
human nature. Yes. This is human nature. Yes. And what the other thing I've seen in the research is the more we like something, the more we underestimate how much of it we eat.
Really? Interesting. That would be me and nut butter.
Right?
That's my weakness. I don't do sweets anymore. And I literally measure that out because I
Yes.
will over it.
I had to do the same thing with nut butter. There was a point where I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to have one more bite of this." It's like, you know what? You need to write down how much of this you're eating. Maybe you need to reduce it for a while. So, like, when I would give myself permission for 2 tablespoons, it made me want more. So then I decided, okay, you're going to have 1 tablespoon of that. And the
That's what
rest
I
of your
do.
protein is going to be something else. So just,
And then using the right tablespoon, right? Because I don't know about you, but some of my tablespoons are huge.
where's that big spoon?
I had to not fool myself with that because I would reach for the biggest. And so I got a baker's tablespoon and was
Nice.
quite shocked at how small that
Not that
was.
much. Where's the rest of it? Right. Yep.
Well, Jenny, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the conversation with you. And as we start to wrap up, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there something that you feel would be useful for the listeners to know, some takeaway or something that they can start doing today?
I think the main thing I would tell people is people tell me all the time, it's actually so easy. And so if what you're doing is complex, it doesn't feel easy, it feels painful for losing weight, you feel miserable about it, it's the wrong thing. It doesn't work. Don't do it. Like, don't do dieting anymore, weight loss diets. That's going to make me cry again. It's just going to make things worse, right? So find healthy principles to follow for eating. Don't fool yourself. Don't let the food industry fool you. If it's in a bag or a box with all these arguments about what's healthy about it, it's not the right stuff. It's not what your body needs. It's going to hurt you.
I love how you said that because I think so many women have been literally hurt by the diet industry, the weight
Yes.
loss industry, and it has been scammy. And most of us started going on diets when we were very young. I think I was, I don't know, 13 or 14
Oh,
going on
yes.
my first one.
Isn't that awful?
And then it's a hobby, you know, for
Yeah,
the rest of
yes,
your life. You're on and off diets. And it does do a lot of harm, I think, emotionally.
yes.
Sending women a message like, oh, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I keep failing,
Yeah, and it's
rather
not
than
letting
taking
us
a different
appreciate
approach.
our bodies and treat our bodies with love and respect. And I saw that change for me. I just started loving and respecting my body in a different way. Like this mantra I have, everything I eat or drink either helps or harms my body. I'm not going to fool myself about that anymore. I'm going to dedicate myself to giving my body what it needs because who else is going to do that?
So good.
Yeah,
So good. Asking yourself that question,
yeah,
you know, because I've asked myself this one, does this bring me closer or further away from my goal?
I love that.
And I was more into the bodybuilding world when I was doing that, but you could apply it to just
To
about
everything.
anything, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Caring about our future self, like me at 80 years old, like she's me. Like I'm not saying, oh, you'll deal with this later. Hopefully you'll be fine. No, I really want to take care of her like she's somebody I love. So that whole feeling is something that has shifted for me. It's partly why I get emotional. Like I spent so much of my life feeling like I'm putting off my health in a way. I don't want to do
But
that
you're
anymore.
doing such good work now and helping so many people to really step into this, and it's powerful. You know,
Yeah,
we feel like we have control over our choices, our life. It's so powerful.
it is.
Now, how can listeners or people watching get a hold of you, buy your
Yes.
book,
Yeah,
work
thank
with
you.
you?
Well, go to slenderforgood.com. I would say get a copy of, there's a 5-minute video there on why dieting doesn't work. And it's really the first message I want people to get really clear. And that'll get you on my mailing list. And I'll make sure, reach out to me and say, I want a copy of the book when it's ready. It should be in the next couple of weeks. It should be available to
Exciting.
purchase. Yeah.
Do you have a book launch team, Jenny?
A launch team.
Like people you're emailing to read and review your book or anything like that?
No, not really. I'm just starting to build a wait list of people who are interested. So I just
Because
started
I
doing.
because I would love to read and do
Thank
a
you.
review for you. I wrote a book, so I I've
Thank
been through
you.
this process,
Yes,
and I know how important it is to get the word out and get those
thank
reviews. So I'm
you.
happy to help any way
Yay.
I can.
That's awesome. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to know how to eat more, stress less, and never diet again, I really poured that into this book, and it's a pretty different message from what you'll find in the marketplace. I think it's going to be really helpful to people.
Wonderful. Well, get on Jenny's email list so you know when this book comes
Yeah.
out. And I'm excited for you, Jenny. Thank you
Thank you,
so much for
Carol.
being here today.
I loved it. It was a joy.
And to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.
Yay.
There you go.